But we are putting a wrap on the 110th Grey Cup of the CFL season. We bring in Dave Campbell, long-time Edmonton Elks and Eskimos broadcaster. And, of course, 6:30 Ched carries the orders as well. David knows his way around the hockey rink. Hey, Dave, how you doing, brother? Happy holidays.
Yeah, good to see you, Rod. Happy holidays as well.
I feel like there's a lot of things coming out of Edmonton with regards to the football team right now. And you know what I'm talking about. Maybe private ownership, maybe not. What's the roster going to look like? Rick Wallisher's made comments here this week. Can you give me an Edmonton Elks report from where you sit?
Well, let's start with what we heard yesterday, and that's a committee, 5-person committee. And we'll look at basically ownership options, and we'll see what happens here. I mean, the comment from Rick Wallisher, who's going to stay on until this process is completed, as far as what type of ownership will be in place for the Elks to ensure their future. He's going to stay on. 2024, they should be able to get through just fine. There's enough in their stabilization fund. Season ticket renewals have actually upticked, which is good. Trey Ford has probably contributed to that. But it's dire, Rod. And, this once proud franchise, which is going through a rough patch here of losing money 4 straight seasons. And the last time they made money was 2018. That's when they held the Grey Cup here in Edmonton. They they picked up almost $2.8 million in revenue. Since then, they've lost somewhere between, I think it's about 18 million, somewhere in that range. They're going to lose more money this year or from 23. I don't think we're going to see community ownership. And, I'll make this prediction, and I'll put a lot of runway to this. By the time the 2025 CFL season rolls around, this team will be under a private owner or private ownership group.
Wow. Well, I don't usually like to look back, but can I ask you this? Who do you think's to blame for where the team is right now?
I think it's been a slow burn for a while. There was a lot of people upset, before 2018 with the organization, the direction. Len Rhodes was the president and CEO at the time, made the club a lot of money. They lost a lot of attendance, though. I think it was like 9,000 in average attendance under Len Rhodes, and there were some people upset with him. But then you got the perfect storm, Rod. COVID, losing season, the name change, the mismanagement, I guess, from Brock Sunderland, and Chris Pedersen came in, and a tough situation for him to handle COVID. And then when you decide as an organization, and I think a lot of people would agree with the move to let go Chris Pedersen and Brock Sunderland and Jamie Elizondo, the head coach, after 21, the consequence of that is that you have the football ops cap, which puts this team in real dire straits. Which they'll be free from this year for the most part, or in 24, so that's good. There's not just one thing, Rod. There's been several reasons why we're here. The thing that bothers me and the thing that concerns me is how quickly the bottom fell out of this organization. They're real tough, like I said, tough financial times. When you're in a community owned type situation, let's lay it out for how the structure works here. You got 75 people on, who are shareholders. You pay your $10, you get voting rights. Then you have a board of directors, and they're volunteers, and they're all very good business people and established in the workforce, and but they're volunteers. And a community ownership structure isn't designed to handle what has happened to the Elks the last 4 years and to keep losing money. So there was 15 million plus in that stabilization fund. It's probably now down to half.
Okay, happier topic. We'll see what I've heard the rumors. I don't want to get into it, man. You and I have known each other a long time. I say anything, I get trounced. It's like people ripping on Dolly Parton for the way she dressed last time. I'm over it. So I'll just wait and see how it turns out. I hear that it's coming. Obviously, so do you. But the positive thing is this. How about my guy, Chris Jones? I'll always be a Chris Jones guy. Things are on the uptick there. right?
I think so. They're going to be, continuity they're going to have in 24. They are probably going to only have about 15, 16 free agents compared to a year ago when it was about, 30 to 35. They're going to have a very solid roster as far as continuity is concerned. Now, the roster was young in 23 in relative terms and might be young in 24. And the concern that I think people have, and I have as well, is, okay, are they going to grow up? Are they going to find the way through a game where they, go through a tough time and, not cave in? You go back to week 1, Rod, where they had 3 cracks of scoring against the Riders at home here in the home opener on the 1 yard line and didn't do it. I think that messed with their psyche for most of the year. Then they went through a stretch with Trey Ford at the helm where they won 4 of 5 games and then they lost 4 in a row. But I do think there's some optimism because of Trey Ford and the excitement he brings, and he's going to have to improve as an all-around quarterback. They're going to have to improve their offensive line and a little bit. It did improve. But, I always say this, look at the Grey Cup. Look who won it. Look who was there on the other side that fell short. How close are the Elks to the Alouettes and the Bombers, right? Well, if you look at the Alouettes, I think this offense of the Elks is somewhat comparable. Defensively is where the Elks really have to improve in special teams. But defensively, when you're giving up an average of 28 points per game throughout the season, that's not Chris Jones' defense. So they have to do some tweaking to the roster, but they'll have a lot of their pieces back. And the good news is the football ops cap, for example, or as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be free of that. So if Chris Jones wants to get some help in coaching or football ops, he'll be free to do that.
Okay, lastly, we got about a minute or two. I respect you immensely, Dave. You know that. Your knowledge of football and hockey. So I want you to tell me who you think is to blame for where the Oilers are. Because I've heard every opinion. Now I want yours.
Well, well, you just set me up like a T there, Rod. My goodness, don't get me into trouble now.
That's what I do.
Anyway, but seriously, it's defense. They can't stop the puck.
Okay.
They can't defend well enough, and their goaltending hasn't been good enough. Now, it's relatively the same team as last year. Okay, and that team, if they would have beat the Vegas Golden Knights, could have very well been in the Stanley Cup final. They could have won, right? So they knew that. They came back to training camp, or they came in September 5th for captain skates, and we're talking Stanley Cup. Through training camp, they were talking Stanley Cup or bust. You heard that from Leon Draisaitl and some others. I think that set them up psychologically. That was not a good situation for them. I don't think that has played very well with their psyche, and they're caving with the pressure. I honestly believe that. There's that saying, "Be where your feet are." Just focus on where you are now. It's the NHL season is a grind. It's a build. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think they feel the pressure so greatly that they're having trouble scoring. They're having trouble with their power play now. They're having trouble with the penalty kill. They're having trouble with everything, defending, goaltending. They changed the coach. Chris Knobloch. He even stopped practice at the beginning yesterday and said, "Okay, someone went offside. We're starting the drill again. F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb." He was very direct. So there's going to be probably a trade coming. But the problem is, Rod, every team knows the Oilers are, they need a goalie, or especially, and they're not going to make it very easy on the Oilers. So the warning I have is, whatever trade that is, if this doesn't turn around internally, it's going to be brutal for the Oilers. It's going to be brutal for the return that they have to give up for whatever asset they get, and it probably won't be the asset you like.
Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. David, I appreciate this. Again, enjoy the football, the hockey, whatever's on your plate this weekend. Thanks for this.
You got it, buddy. Same to you. Yeah, good to see you.
Edmonton broadcaster, the great Soupy Campbell.